And selecting number 11 overall in our 2018 NFL mock draft, the Miami Dolphins, 6-10 on the year in 2017. Of course, injuries to the quarterback position, most notably Ryan Tannehill. But they do have a decision to make with Jarvis Landry, so wide receiver could be in need. Offensive line struggled as well. Juwan James, a notable free agent for them.
If they lose Jarvis Landry, wide receiver becomes their, maybe becomes their biggest need, and they go, okay, we might have to take a receiver early because you got Devontae Parker and Kenny Stills who can run fast, and Parker didn't look all that great this year, so receiver becomes a very important need. But in the first round, even if they, especially if Calvin Ridley's not on the board, I think they're looking at two areas. They're looking for offensive line help because they need it on the interior, and linebacker because I didn't like the Lawrence Timmons signing. That was kind of a weird situation kind of throughout the year. Kiko Alonso, it didn't look great this year. Raekwon McMillan needs to get healthy. So Tremayne Edmonds is also an option here for Miami, but they also need offensive line help. And look, Laramie Tunsil didn't have the best year at left tackle. I think he steps back up. Juwan James is a free agent as well. If he walks, that's a big issue. And then at guard, Jermon Bushrod, who I don't really like all that much, is a free agent. I don't really like Anthony Steen. Frankly, I think Miami needs two starters on the interior of the offensive line. There are some decent linemen available around this portion of the NFL draft.
All right, so with that, Tom, let's get to that pick. And you've got the Dolphins going with Connor Williams, tackle out of Texas, but you like him at guard too.
I think the big concern for me about Connor is that he has the size. He's 6'5", 310. He might come in a little bit under that. He's been a left tackle at Texas before. But I think the big knock on Connor Williams that might come out during the combine is I don't know if his arm length is going to measure up the way you want it to. And when NFL teams say, ooh, short arms, that means, hey, you don't have the length to hold up and go against edge rushers.
Yeah.
And you're going to get beat there. So we're going to move you to guard. And I do think Williams could be a very good guard in the NFL. I think he can be a tackle. I still like him as a left tackle prospect. But maybe if you're Miami, go, you know what? Let's just put Tunsil and Connor Williams at left tackle, left guard, shore up that side, and look later for more help on the right side, especially if they're able to retain Juwan James. And if they lose Juwan James, one of them can go play right tackle as well. I like Connor Williams a lot. I think Tremayne Edmonds also makes quite a bit of sense here. But I think if you're Miami, you got to get a better offensive lineman because your offensive line play has not been that good lately.
By the way, you got to protect your quote-unquote franchise and Ryan Tannehill coming back.
That's another giant question. I think they'll keep Tannehill. We'll see what ends up happening there. But with Connor Williams, I think he makes sense for Miami if they want to play him at guard. I think he can be a tackle, though, and I do think he goes somewhere in this range as well when he gets to the actual NFL draft, as long as his arms didn't come in at like 30 inches.
Tom Downey has Connor Williams going to the Miami Dolphins at number 11 overall. And selecting number 12 overall in our 2018 NFL mock draft, the Cincinnati Bengals. And boy, they stole a lot of headlines last offseason, Tom, because they did not address the offensive line. And hey, look at that. Team needs tackle and guard and center.
Look, Cincinnati, you would think they go offensive line, right? Like, oh my God, they need offensive linemen, that they have to get more help in this area. I don't know if we're going to see the Bengals spend a first-round pick on a lineman. I think they might look at free agency and then in rounds 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 add more offensive linemen there because they want to give guys like Cedric Abuya another shot at tackle even though he was awful last year. So I think with the Cincinnati Bengals, maybe you see him go elsewhere and don't take a guy like Mike McGlinchey, who we'll discuss later. I see some comments on McGlinchey. We'll discuss him later on in the mock draft because he's in the first round, but I'm not as bullish on McGlinchey as others are, or an Orlando Brown, but maybe they go get an impact defensive player instead.
All right, Tom, let's get to that number 12 pick. And you've got the Bengals going with Derwin James, defensive back out of Florida State. Haven't heard much about him this offseason so far.
He's going to blow up the combine, so that'll help him out quite a bit. He is Derwin's a fun prospect. I love his upside. I think Derwin James can be the best safety in this year's draft, maybe even last year's draft potentially as well. But you look at what he did this year, and he didn't have a true position. He kind of played that rover, linebacker, nickel corner, safety, edge rusher at times type guy. He wasn't a true free safety. His ball skills aren't terrible, but they're really not great. And when you kind of put those last negative parts together, you see, ooh, great athlete as well, a bigger version of Jabril Peppers. Now, not a fair comp because James has better balls. I think he goes earlier, but I don't think he's there as a free safety yet. But I know the Bengals are looking to get an impact safety. They've got two solid ones in George Iocca and Sean Williams, but if Derwin James is on the board, they go, hey, let's get our impact guy. We can move on from one of those guys later, and we get this great defensive piece to have in the backfield. He can be a chess piece for a defense. He is an impact weapon on defense. You don't often find those guys in the NFL draft. I think that's what Derwin James can be, and I like what he brings as a long-term option. I just don't know if he's there quite yet as a true dynamic free safety.
You know, I'm wondering if there's a little LaMarcus Joyner to him, because Joyner can come up and play that slot a little bit.
He's much bigger, but yes.
Yeah.
I think he's that type of safety hybrid nickel corner.
Okay. Derwin James going number 12 overall to the Cincinnati Bengals. Let's summarize our list, ladies and gentlemen. 1 through 4, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Quentin Nelson, and Saquon Barkley. And the next 4 here, we got Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, Bradley Chubb, Calvin Ridley going to the Bears. And then 9 through 12, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Roquan Smith, Connor Williams, and Derwin James. This is NFL Daily, ladies and gentlemen. We're presented by AutoList. Driving a car is fun. Car shopping should be too. Go to Autolist.com or download their top-rated apps for iPhone or Android today. And we'll continue along in our NFL mock draft. Selecting number 13 overall in our 2018 NFL mock draft, the Washington Redskins, 7-9 in 2017, need some help at the linebacking core. Also on the offensive line as well. They had their fair share of injuries on that front in 2017.
Inside linebacker remains in need. They did re-sign Mason Foster. I don't know what's going to happen to Zach Brown. Zach Vigil showed some upside. But if you're the Redskins, there really isn't a guard you want. You probably don't want to reach for a receiver necessarily. Let's look at inside linebacker. And there happens to be a guy in the comments section that the comments section has loved so far. I think that might be a good option here.
All right, let's get to the pick. And we've seen this name a lot in the comments section, Tom. Tremayne Edmonds going to the Redskins.
I'm very proud of our comments section to recognize who this is. Because when we did an earlier mock draft earlier in the year, I had Edmonds in the first round, and the general consensus was, who's this guy? Now everyone is caught back up to Edmonds because he is a freak athlete, 6'4", 250, moves really, really well, and is just 19 years old. He's not going to turn 20 until after the NFL draft. You don't find guys of this athleticism and size and age really ever. So that's what if you draft Edmonds, you're like, oh man, we give him 2 years in an with an NFL team. Think how good he's going to be. And that's why you take Tremayne Edmonds, because as of right now, he put up good numbers at Virginia Tech. He's not quite there as a polished product as a linebacker, which, of course, he's 19 years old. The upside for Edmonds is absolutely incredible.
You like him at Leo, right?
I mean, he can be a Leo, but I think he's more in the Anthony Barr mold, where he can kind of play any linebacker spot. Yeah, you can let him blitz as a Leo. I think you can put him in as a middle linebacker if he maybe bulks up a little bit, as a weak side linebacker. Maybe his best fit is as a 3-4 inside linebacker, but he's able to move around everywhere, kind of like Anthony Barr did. 6'4", 250 is not your typical inside linebacker frame and size. That's kind of more Brian Urlacher frame and size, which I've seen some comps on that. I don't want to put that pressure on Edmonds yet because that's kind of an unfair comparison. But he does have that size and athletic ability, so I love what Edmonds brings. He's going to go top 15, and like some of the commenters had said, he might go in the top 10 and be the first linebacker off the board. He's got that upside.
Tom Downey has Tremayne Edmonds going number 13 overall to the Washington Redskins. And selecting number 14 overall in our 2018 NFL mock draft, the Green Bay Packers had a lot of injuries to the secondary last year, Tom. Did not perform very well. They need help back there. They also need help at other spots, too,
I'm not ruling out wide receiver, although I think that they like to spend second-round picks on wide receivers. Green Bay's in a fun spot where I think they can more go, okay, who's the best available athlete on the defensive side of the ball? I don't think they're going to reach for a guard here. They're not going to go tight end this early, but there will be good edge rushers, and there should be good cornerbacks as well here for the Green Bay Packers. Cornerback they spent a lot of investment in, but they do need more production overall from that area.
All right, quickly, folks, what is the Packers' biggest offseason need? Let us know in the comment section as we move along here and get to the official pick. And Tom, you have Denzel Ward going number 14 overall to the Packers.
I am concerned about what his actual size is. It might be closer to 5'9" than his listed 5'10". But I think he's going to let up the combine. I think he is going to be great with his athleticism. He's going to jump really high. I think his arm is going to come in pretty long as well. Denzel Ward and Joshua Jackson are very much in a race to be the first cornerback off the board. And I think with the Green Bay Packers in particular, they can afford to say, you know what, we just took Kevin King. We don't have to necessarily get another long, lanky corner. We can get maybe a better athlete in Denzel Ward who can play some nickel, play some outside corner. He reminds me a lot of Jordan Lewis. And Jordan Lewis was really good this year. Now, I do think Ward might be better as a slot corner, but he could be one of the best slot corners in the NFL. So with Green Bay, you need guys in the secondary. Ward can be that instant impact guy at either outside corner or nickel corner. Even though I admittedly don't necessarily love this pick at the most, the size does concern me, but he is a fantastic athlete and has pretty good ball skills as well.
All right, so Tom Downey has Denzel Ward going number 14 overall to the Green Bay Packers. And selecting number 15 overall in our 2018 NFL mock draft, the Arizona Cardinals in the definition of an awkward spot in this draft, Tom, because they could miss out on all those good quarterbacks.
Well, the top four are off the board, and I would love to put Lamar Jackson here. I really would, Cam. But you know how Bill Polian said Lamar needs to switch to wide receiver, which is a laughable take, by the way, and I can't quite figure out why. He's not the only NFL guy that feels that way. Like, I don't agree with it. I don't get it. I think it's a little bit stereotyping on that regard. But the earliest Lamar Jackson goes is the late first round. So I think if you're Arizona, you're not going to spend a pick on a cornerback here. You could try and trade down. You could look wide receiver. But we know that GM Steve Keim likes to go to best player available. There happens to be a really good defensive back that has fallen further than I think most would expect.
Very interesting, Tom. Let's get to that pick at 15. And that pick is Josh Jackson, cornerback out of Iowa. Good size, well coached.
Look, this was partially a value pick here for Arizona because there's no way Jackson's going to fall to the top 20, I don't think. If the Cardinals didn't take him, he could have been in for a really long slide here. So with Josh Jackson, and as it fits to Arizona here, they don't necessarily need a number one corner because they got this guy named Patrick Peterson. He's fantastic. Tremayne Williams stepped up, but he's also a free agent. They need a number 3 corner because they don't like Justin Bethel. If you have Josh Jackson, that solidifies the outside spot if you lose Tremayne Williams. He has got ball skills in bunches. 8 interceptions, a bunch of pass breakups as well. Joshua Jackson, despite only playing 1 year, looked really good when the ball was in the air. But the big question for me here, Cam, and this I think is a good question for everyone here, is what do you do with Josh Jackson, who's only played 1 year? Why is he not going earlier than that? Like, why did he not play earlier? Like, I think that's a fair question. He's got all the length and the ball skills you could want. Why wasn't he playing a lot?
Well, that's the interesting point, Tom.
I know Desmond King, but there's a spot next to him. So I think maybe you see what Josh Jackson hasn't quite grasped the concept of being an actual cornerback. He's still raw in a lot of areas that's overcovered by the great ball skills. So, but at the same time, I'm like, oh my God, how good can he be? So I think with Josh Jackson, you definitely spend a first-round pick on him. I think he needs some work overall as a player, but he's got the size and the ball skills you want. This is about as low as I see Josh Jackson going, unless there's something concerning that we don't know about off the field.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, he's got the prototypical size that NFL GMs and coaches really covet these days because, you know, the Legion of Boom kind of brought it to the forefront with the fantastic size that they had back in the day with Browner there, and, of course, Richard Sherman still on the team. All right, so there's Joshua Jackson at number 15 overall to the Cardinals. And selecting number 16 overall in our 2018 NFL mock draft, the Baltimore Ravens. 9-7 campaign last year, just missed out on the playoffs, but it was clear Joe Flacco did not have many options on the outside.
You want a receiver, right, Cam?
Yes, that'd be great.
Well, Calvin Ridley's off the board, so I apologize for that, but I don't think he's going to last the Ravens pick. I saw a comment on that. I don't see how he gets past the Cardinals or the Redskins, even the Packers, the Raiders, the Dolphins if they lose Jarvis Landry. He's just not going to be on the board. But there are a bunch of other wide receivers who could be options for Baltimore.
All right, let's get to that pick at number 16 overall. Tom, you've got Courtland Sutton, wide receiver out of SMU, going to Baltimore.
I need the combine. I need the combine to figure out who's going to run really fast and pole vault themselves into the number 2 wide receiver slot. Because I don't know if it's Courtland Sutton right now. I don't know if it's Christian Kirk. I don't know if it's James Washington. Sutton has the upside to be maybe the best receiver in this year's class. He's long, he's lanky, he's big, he's a great red zone threat. And that's why I think he fits well with Baltimore. I don't want to see him take another Brashad Perryman, another Mike Wallace. Get them a big-bodied wide receiver. That's what Courtland Sutton is. Now, he gets open because he was just bigger and faster than all the other guys he played against at SMU.
Right.
That's not going to fly in the NFL. He has to be a better route runner, but the upside is there. I don't think he should go any higher than this, but the need is so immense for Baltimore here in the first round at wide receiver.
And Ozzie Newsome, GM, more known for his free agency splashes at the wide receiver position. So this would be very interesting to see if Courtland Sutton does indeed go to the Ravens at number 16 overall. Let's summarize what we have so far in our mock draft. We got Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Quentin Nelson, Saquon Barkley, 1 through 4. And then 5 through 8 here, Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, Bradley Chubb, and Calvin Ridley, wide receiver out of Alabama. 9 through 12 we go, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Roquan Smith, Connor Williams, the tackle, and Derwin James, followed by the next 4 here. Tremayne Edmonds, Denzel Ward, Joshua Jackson, and Courtland Sutton. This is NFL Daily, ladies and gentlemen, presented by Autolist. Driving a car is fun. Car shopping should be too. Go to Autolist.com or download their top-rated apps for iPhone and Android today. All right, let's get into number 17 in our NFL mock draft. And selecting number 17 in our 2018 NFL mock draft, the Los Angeles Chargers, 9-7 in 2017. Need some help at linebacker, defensive line perhaps as well. Offensive line was a little shaky too, Tom.
Offensive line is an area they could look to address. Not on that top 5, but just outside of it is also defensive tackle. And I think Corey Luigi and Brandon McBain are just, they're okay. Like they do a fine job of stopping the run, but the Chargers don't have a disruptive 3 technique who can collapse the pocket and add on to what is already a really good pass rushing front with Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram. If they lose Trey Boston, safety's an option here as well. Same thing with inside linebacker, maybe a tackle if they fall in love with an Orlando Brown or Connor Williams is on the board. But when I look at the Chargers, Cam, I see the opportunity here to get a really good disruptive 3 technique.
All right, Tom, let's get to the pick, number 17. And you've got Maurice Hurst, defensive lineman out of Michigan, going to the Chargers.
You know, if you subscribe to Chat Sports on YouTube, you might have seen our NFL Draft Scouting Report on Maurice Hurst with an interview from Maurice Hurst because he is a friend of the program. You know, going through Hurst, I wasn't as impressed as I was actually like watching the games live. I'm like, oh, there's a play from Maurice Hurst, but on tape it's like, oh, he's out of the play. Oh, there's the play. So, but I did figure out why. Maurice Hurst played out of position so much at Michigan. He was playing nose guard a lot. That's not what he is in the NFL. Maurice Hurst is a 3 technique. Through and through, the only spot he's going to have success at. And if you put him one-on-one with NFL guards, he's going to win.
So you're saying go to the Cowboys, too.
Well, I know they don't need a 3 technique. We'll talk about the Cowboys. They don't need a 3 technique,
I know.
Dan. You're killing me.
I know. I'm just getting you riled up.
I know you are. I don't like it. With the Chargers, this is the perfect fit for Hurst. He becomes their 3 technique. Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram get all the attention, and Hurst gets to feast inside with one-on-ones against centers and guards. And he will win a lot of those. I think you let him be a 3 technique, let him go get the quarterback, go get the halfback. You're going to see very similar numbers, maybe even more in the NFL than his 2017 season at Michigan. Maurice Hurst has the ability to be a wildly disruptive 3 technique in the NFL. I think in LA, he can reach that potential. I think it'd be an ideal fit for him.
All right, so you got Mo Hurst going to the Chargers at number 17 overall. And selecting number 18 in our 2018 NFL mock draft, the Seattle Seahawks, 9-7 in 2017. They are fairly strapped for cap space at this juncture, and they need a lot of help on that offensive line. Tom, what do they do? I
am so terrified they're not going to go offensive lineman, Cam. This is what Seattle does, though. They go, oh, offensive linemen are on the board. Oh, we can get Forrest Lamp, who is exactly what we need. Nah, we're going to trade down a bunch and then take Malik McDowell. And then go trade for Sheldon Richardson. This is what Seattle does. They just ignore the offensive line. I hope this doesn't change. I hope it does change. They have to have offensive linemen. And I don't care if it's a guard or a tackle because Jermaine Ifedi's not any good. Ethan Posick can play anywhere. I think left guard is where they're going to look at the most. They have got to go find offensive line help. I don't care what position. Take someone and find a spot from an offensive line because I bet if they take someone here, he's one of their 5 best linemen instantly.
All right, Tom, let's get to that pick at number 18. And Tom, at number 18 overall, you have the big fella, Orlando Brown, tackle out of Oklahoma, going to the Seahawks.
I don't know how he fits with Seattle necessarily because he hasn't been a right tackle. And there is some buzz that he's not quick enough or fast enough to be on the left side. I want to see him get a shot, but it's not as easy as saying, oh, you've been a left tackle your whole life? Cool, go play the right side. It's just not that easy to switch sides. Your footwork totally changes. Everything is mixed up. It's just different. It takes time to adjust.
More of a run blocker at right tackle.
But if you're Seattle, he's the best offensive lineman. I don't think they want to spend a high pick on a guard. That's not really been their MO. If you take a guy like Orlando Brown, you find a spot for him, and then he eventually, hopefully, becomes your Russell Okung, your big mauling left tackle who takes over on the left side of the ball. They just have to find offensive line help quickly here if you're Seattle because Russell Wilson at some point is going to get hurt.
Time is running out.
He's not going to be able to stay healthy forever.
Yeah.
And frankly, if you're Seattle, your window with your defense aging, maybe it's not in the best shape. So I think you got to find offensive line help. I want to watch more of Orlando Brown against some better speed guys, but the upside is there. He does remind me a little bit of Eric Flowers.
He's huge.
But he's massive. So, and I think Seattle deep down would like to be more of a running football team. That does fit Orlando Brown's MO very well, by the way.
All right, Tom, you got Orlando Brown going to the Seahawks at number 18 overall. And selecting number 19 overall in our 2018 NFL mock draft, the Dallas Cowboys. Tom, you are the host of the Cowboys Report. You know this team better than many people out there.
Yeah, look, so edge is only a need until DeMarcus Lawrence's franchise tag, so we'll cross that off. I maintain the best move the Cowboys can make this offseason is to get a run-stuffing nose guard. Now, under Rod Marinelli, they haven't valued that position in the same way other teams do. Marinelli's system and mindset is we can get by with lesser guys at nose guard. I think it showed this year because the linebackers were banged up, but they were not in a position to make plays because the Cowboys were forced to use Malik Collins, a 3 technique, and put him in as a nose guard. That was not a good fit for Collins. He struggles against the run. You put a good run-stuffing nose guard here for the Cowboys, it solidifies the defense very well. If they're off the board, I think they're going to look offensive guard early in this year's draft.
All right, so let's get to that pick. Number 19 overall for the Cowboys. And Tom, you've got Vita Vea, defensive lineman out of Washington, going to the Cowboys. He's a big fella.
I love Vita Vea. This is one of my guys. I saw some comments in there saying the Chargers should go Vita instead. You know, I am so concerned that the Cowboys aren't going to have a chance at Vita Vea because what's going to end up happening is he's going to let up the combat. Here's this 340-pound man who might run a sub 5-second 40-yard dash. And at that point, I mean, you could see the Bucs or the Raiders take him in the top 10.
Exactly, yeah.
There's a real chance that this is 10 picks too low for Vita Vea. You do not find 3-down nose guards, and that's what Vita Vea is. He is a top 10 prospect for me in this year's class. He could fall, though, because I think NFL teams might think he's not good enough on all 3 downs and say, you know what, he's only a 2-down lineman. And we've seen time and time again, 2-down linemen don't go in the first round, especially in recent NFL drafts. But I saw some comments in there. I totally agree with you guys. I love Vita Vea. I think he is a fantastic defensive tackle. You put him with the Dallas Cowboys, he is going to thrive. And he is going to be a perfect fit for that defense. I think he is a 10-plus year, defensive lineman here. He's a little bit older, but he's got Haloti Nagata type longevity because he can stop the run. He can still get to the passer a little bit as well. This is as low as Vita Vea goes. There is no way I think he gets outside of the top 20.
Huge win for the Cowboys if they do indeed get Vita Vea there at number 19 overall. And selecting number 20 overall in our 2018 NFL mock draft, the Detroit Lions, 9-7 in 2017. They need help on that front seven for the defense, and Matt Patricia, the new head coach there, I think that's going to be a point of emphasis.
Well, I think Maurice Hurst would be great for them. He's off the board. I think they need a disruptive three technique. Now, maybe they go with another Florida guy, and they take someone like Taven Bryan, who we'll discuss later on in the show, hint, hint, hint. But if you're Detroit, Cam, what's been the biggest issue with your offense?
Running the football.
You can't run the football. Well, here's the good news for Detroit. It's a really, really good running back class, and there are a lot of good ones here on the board.
Let's get to number 20. Tom, you got the second running back off the board here, Darius Guice out of LSU.
Wasn't as good this year. His 2016 tape was better because he was banged up. He had dealt with a knee injury this year for LSU. The difference between Darius Guice and Saquon Barkley isn't truly 15 picks. I think it's going to come closer to maybe that 10-minute range. But go back to teams we've had. Seattle, I don't think they're going to take a halfback early. LA doesn't need one, the Chargers. The Ravens probably aren't going to take one. Arizona's not. The Packers probably aren't. The Redskins probably aren't. The Redskins maybe could, but I think they could go linebacker instead. The Bengals aren't. The Dolphins won't. The Raiders probably won't. So you could see guys fall a little bit. And if that's the case, he's on the board for the Detroit Lions. And if you're Detroit, you know what? I like Amir Abdullah. He can't stay healthy. At a certain point, you got to move on from him and say, you know what? Let's get a three-down back who can actually be a run-first back, none of the scat back stuff they've continuously leaned on. And if they do take Darius Guice, by the way, Ken, you've mentioned this in previous shows, I think you could very well see Amir Abdullah on the trade block.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, I see you.
Projected way out here. That might not come true if the Lions don't take Darius Guice. But I think with Detroit, they're looking three technique and they're looking at halfback. And a guy like Darius Guice gives them the option to have a little bit more balanced offense. They lean so heavily on the scat back type. Now they have, in theory, and this ends up happening here, they have the ability to get that really good running back who can be a factor on all three downs.
All right, Tom, you got Darius Guice going number 20 overall to the Detroit Lions.